families will say, well, how do we begin? Or where are we going to find the strength to be able to do this? It feels so insurmountable.
Yeah, implementing
right?
the new.
Yeah, and I'm like, just start and let the time outside build, embrace all the seasons, all the different lights of the season, and then that's where you'll get your strength. That's where you'll get your power.
Welcome back to the Village Sessions podcast, guys.
Bringing wisdom home.
We are so excited to have you back with us. We're in the studio, aka Michelle's living room, and we got some stuff with us today that we're excited to talk about.
Yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed the off season. We upgraded and updated our Village Birth offering in the meantime. That's what we were doing behind the scenes. But yeah, first things first, let's talk about our featured product of season 2, the product that all three of us, we like bond over products.
Yeah.
Mitigate stress is one.
Also, we talk about product loyalty. You talk about that.
I'm an OG raw optics fan. I mean, I remember the launch.
Oh my gosh.
Like that.
Wait, that's crazy.
Yeah, so I think the pair that you have there was like the first pair that I bought.
So you found them first before Molly did.
Just watched watched it give birth. It was great. Yeah, Matt and Jack was behind him, and Jack Cruz, and watched that whole thing happen. And I was like, these are legit. Yeah, and so that had to have been in 15 or 16.
Wow. Years ago.
Yeah,
because I bought these early 2021 after I took a mentorship course and your original course with the practice stuff. In 2021.
It's pretty much a requirement in every offering I do. Yeah.
4 years old. They've got like some scuffs and things, but every time we go on an airplane, these things are on.
Oh yeah.
Every time we travel late at night, that kind of stuff. Anytime we're home in the Midwest is where my family's from. You know, the alien lights everywhere. I'm protecting myself, everybody.
Yeah, we'll do a little. Let's do a little try on. So this is the, and we'll talk more about the company in a second. But this is the Clyde style. This is the daylight. We'll put them in the show notes, guys.
Yeah, show notes.
These are my teacher ones.
Yeah, you
I
got
have
your
those
teacher
too.
ones. These are newer. She just got these.
I just got these.
These she's had for 4 years. These I've had maybe 2.5, 3 before that. So Matt, I just am fascinated by his history. In the way that back in high school, y'all know his story. Back in high school, he was like, I think he was living maybe further up north, latitude wise, and wasn't feeling his best. He's just an experimenter. He moved into his garage of his house because he basically was like, I want to get in the cold. Right? Yeah. I want to adapt to the winter. And he started kind of getting into like more of the lifestyle, biohacky, but really just like living your life in a way that's aligned with the seasons, with nature, with light, and then eventually got really into light and then created this company. And so you found them years ago.
In the beginning. And then I did the whole thing where I was like, cool. There's like some awesome companies out here.
I'm going to order from Amazon.
And that was also when I started working with Michelle too. I was like, I definitely need some blue light blocker glasses. But I was like, let's just go with the Amazon brand.
Of course.
I went through probably 8-9 different lenses. They were all clear, which is something that Matt talks about is like, if your lenses are clear, they're not doing anything for you. They're not blocking anything. And I just did not know until I knew, you know what I mean? With finally investing in my first pair, putting them on, literally felt the nervous system difference of looking at a screen immediately. I got the nighttime ones that are the red, and I literally was able to do some quick work on a computer or my phone and immediately be able to fall asleep afterwards, which was astounding to me. So that was kind of that first, like, I'm sold for life with this company. It's the only one that I recommend as far as lenses. And then what was your experience when you first?
Same experience. I think in like 2017 or 2018, when I first heard about blue blockers, I ordered from Amazon and they were clear lenses.
Yeah.
So I kind of like intermittently used them. But that was when I was going through chiropractic school. And so there was a lot of nights, your circadian rhythm just kind of like screwed up, you know, in a doctorate program. And so you're doing a lot of computer work. And then when I moved to Hawaii, did work with Michelle, I was like, oh, I need sunlight during the day. I need darkness at night. These are the kind of things that my body and my biology requires. So then I got more serious And I don't even know how I found them.
You would have heard me talk about them because they're the only ones I recommend in my courses.
That's probably where it came from. That's probably where it came from. Now I'm stoked that they have the kids line with Courtney Kayla. That feels really exciting to me. We were talking about like, not that our kids really are on screens enough to like maybe make it make sense, but traveling, etc. As my son grows up, I want him to be able to like experience, you know, some of the protection or whatever, just like natural circadian rhythms when we're going to be doing testing our biology in different light environments and that kind of thing.
And if our kids were in a traditional school with classrooms with fluorescent lights, the kids' lenses, I mean, our kids are obsessed with our lenses. They're cool enough where they would put those on, I would imagine. I know my kids would. So that's what, if my kids were in school, they would be wearing those if they were like learning under the fluorescent artificial lights.
Yeah, we were early adopters in our family, and I think like that first Christmas after I got mine, I bought all the kids glasses for their stockings, and was just like, you know, I'd really like for you to wear these at school and see how you feel, and kind of have an experience with it.
No way.
Yeah, way.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and they, you know, they did struggle a little bit with the, you know, but this was 10 years ago, so this was, you know, they did struggle a little bit with the, you know, the being different kind of thing. But I'm like, you know what? Here's the thing. And then this is when we get to have the talk about, you know what? Be different, because it won't be too long, and then everybody will be doing it. 100%. So, yeah.
Well, and that's what's cool about Raw is the styles that he has that Matt has come out with, whether it's a collab with somebody or it's its own style. There's so much to choose from where it's like, it's like your vibe, you know, it like fits your vibe.
I was laughing so hard at Christmas because one of my sons got his truck stolen. The only thing that he really missed out of the truck, he had his blue light blockers in there.
No.
So guess what he got in his stocking for Christmas was a replacement blue light blocker.
Of course he did.
I'm trying to be on your stocking list. Right? On there. Like,
it's like on the Santa list.
Yeah. The good stuff in there.
Anyway.
So we have a code for you guys. The code is VILLAGE in all caps. We'll put that in the show notes. And then, like I said, we'll be talking more about light in this episode, but we'll roll out more about Raw as the season continues. So let's talk about light. We like to talk about light in the context of it being potentially one of the most overlooked and also incredibly simple. I think all foundational pieces are simple. We know this. It's how we live our lives. But these foundational pieces that support your mitochondria, that resource you, that support your vitality, it is literally one of the most overlooked pieces. And I think this conversation is really relevant in the winter. We're halfway through winter. And so either there's like these options, right? You either like put the floodlights on, it's dark, so you try to adapt by putting more lights in your house, more of the overhead lights, or you're like, like I'm feeling kind of the blues, like the winter blues of the darkness. And Michelle, I mean, this has been something that foundationally is in her work with people. We teach it in Rooted Families. You guys have it in your generative biohabits course as well.
Yep.
Just being able to adapt with each season, with each light cycle, and understanding that that is actually exactly what your bodies are designed to do is, you know, step one. How did you get into the light conversation? Was it kind of being in the clinical space of just seeing the mismatch?
What's so interesting, you know, when I look back now before I knew, right, that there was actually a thing about this. I can remember, you know, like my mother's generation, my mom, classic grandma core, you know, where there's lamps everywhere. Once the sun went down, then the lamps came on. There were lamps in the kitchen, lamps in the bathroom. I mean, who does that, right? But there were lamps everywhere.
I do it.
It was horizontal lighting, right, after dark. And to me, that was normal. It was what we did. And so when I finally had my own home and children, I kind of adopted that same pattern, was lamps. And during the day, I never used overhead lighting. And then when there was actually like some science behind it, well, I'll tell you what, in what year was that? 2004, 2005, we had moved into a very large ranch style house, and we had an ice storm. And this was like a pivotal moment for me. Moved into a very large home on 6 acres, ice storm. out of power, out of water 11 days, right? And so we had 3 wood stoves. So I had a wood stove in the kitchen, a wood stove in the living room, wood stove downstairs. So we were able to stay warm. And so we melted snow and ice, of course. And I made olive oil lamps. I think I've talked about these before. And had copper Romax from the house, and I just wrapped it around some like piping from a project that I had done, cushion project, and put olive oil in there and burned it. And it was these old school, I'm sure you've seen these, the mason jars with the handles on them. And I had those all over the house. Love it because the oil doesn't flash. So if you turn over an olive oil lamp, it won't run like a paraffin oil lamp, like lamp oil. And so I felt completely safe with that. And during those 11 days, I watched my children just regulate into this. They could not stay awake an hour after the sun went down.
Wow.
And I'm like, huh. So
there's something to this.
In 2000, and so this was 2005, and that's what we did for all of those years until there was, quote, science behind it, right? It was intuitive. It was instinctive. It was what felt good. It was what brought this sense of like down regulation to the house. And what's also interesting is when I designed that house, I had put this custom made punch tin lighting that I had made in Pennsylvania. And so I had all these incandescent bulbs in it. This was like
punch tin. I know exactly.
You know what I'm talking about. Yes, it's old school, New England stuff, right?
Antique.
Yeah.
We call it antique
and the house was a throwback, right? So that was like, I had been doing that for almost 10 years before the science came out.
Wow.
Isn't that weird?
Wow.
Well, it's what we would have been doing 100 years ago.
Totally.
Before
primitive.
The light bulb was.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the house, was like Midwestern ranch meets, New England farmhouse kind of vibe. Yeah. So it was at night, everything was candle lit, everything was lamp oil lit, and everybody was going to sleep like pretty early.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Incredible.
So mapping that over to syncing to what is happening with the sun, the like number one power source when it comes to light, were you noticing being in the dentistry space, clinical space? Now the work you do now is basically in what you guys are creating with the vessel, working with practitioners, mapping out basically the burnout, the mismatch between.
Now, this is a real one. So when I went chairside in the dental office, I was not wearing glasses at the time. I started wearing glasses, and my prescription changed 4 times in 1 year.
Holy cow.
That's how quickly my eyesight began to decline. 1 year.
It's
what in the world?
Primarily from that fluorescent light.
The LED lights. And then I also had loops and a headlamp too.
Gosh.
So that intense LED light changed my prescription 4 times in 1 year.
That's insane.
I thought I was losing my mind. I didn't know that that's what was happening.
Now you're like regenerating your eyesight, right?
Totally, yeah. Like my left eye is almost like completely healed. My right eye is on the way. But yeah, I mean, that's how quickly my eyesight went from I don't need glasses to I felt like I was blind.
This kind of maps over to certain educational programs as well. Like when you go to law school, there's the classic saying that you lose your eyesight in law school because you're up so late at night reading so much stuff, and it's about the reading. But how can you see at night without the light? And
right.
I'm sure there's just 2 a.m.
Everything now is digital. People are actually in a doctorate program reading paper.
Totally.
You're not. You're reading, you might be reading a textbook, but generally most of the assignments and things are on tablets now.
I know last quarter I had the most digital resources that I've had in school so far, and it just toasted me.
Wow.
Yeah, totally toasted me.
Well, so to kind of deconstruct the light conversation, I feel like the first, I don't know about you guys, but kind of the first deprogramming is the belief system about the sun. The sun being this, just a recipe waiting to happen for skin cancer, melanoma, or just damage. Protect yourself from the harmful effects.
Of the sun.
100%.
Yeah.
So was Jack Cruz kind of y'all's
He was my wake up call.
Yeah, that was your wake up call, Jack Cruz.
Well, he was the person that put it together with the LED light and the intensity of light in dentistry and the light. And I was like, oh, of course. Made so much sense at that point.
Jack Cruz was your turning point. Is that
Same.
pretty much it?
Yeah, same. After working with Michelle, like pretty early on, I was like, okay, I need to turn myself on to, I need to be aware, like as a practitioner, where we're going, where we're heading bioenergetically, mitochondrially, neurologically, what the impact is having, light environments, etc. And then I designed my whole practice around and implemented a lot of the principles and pieces that Michelle has shown us, and then Jack Cruz's work as well.
Yeah, you could always expect if you walked in Molly's office it would be just this bright, naturally lit, doors open, open air coming in, kind
plants
of vibe.
Everywhere.
Yeah, plants everywhere. Yep. There's a freshness to what you had created in there.
Candlelight.
Yeah.
When it got dim.
Whenever I found or started working with you, Michelle, and started learning more about Jack Cruz, I was like, oh, there's such a resonance here, because it was actually Ray Pete who was my my turning point for the sun. And this is something that he is particularly known for, is looking at the sun from a bioenergetic perspective of what would create the response for someone over here to, rapidly age or have some sort of sun damage, whatever that means. And then this person over here, just being able to deconstruct that to a hormonal level, a nutrition level, a lifestyle level, and then be able to reverse his own age spots. That was pretty incredible for me. And so that was kind of my first stepping stone in that. But yeah, really something that that I've adapted, for years now, is his particular interest in the polyunsaturated fatty acids, and how a sunburn, his perspective is that a sunburn is kind of just the oxidization of some of these unsaturated fats, the oils, the seed oils that went into our food industry, and then looking at the inflammation and the redness of the sun in the skin, and being able to track that over, if we eat different foods, if we adjust this here, if we actually adapt into our climate a little bit better, how our skin reacts completely different in the sun.
100%. And then you bring in elements of like how much UVA you're receiving, how much infrared light you're also receiving in combination with the direct sunlight, the UVB portion at high noon. Then you can also bring in the latitude element of like where you are on the planet and how far away from your match, your bioenergetic and your mitochondrial match, how far away is that? How big is that spread? So I feel like it's multifaceted, but I've loved watching you integrate some of Ray Pete's work with the polyunsaturated fats.
Well, the interesting thing as a fun case study is getting to observe. So my Freely Renewed course has been out since December of 2020. And Ray Pete kind of had this perspective that it takes about when you're starting to kind of lay the foundation of restoring your metabolism, it takes about 2 to 3 years for some of these, heavy deposits of PUFA, the polyunsaturated fatty acids in the skin, or the excess estrogen, which is increasing your cortisol production. This is a very big marker for aging. The estrogen and the PUFA go hand in hand. So he was able to track, okay, it takes about 2 to 3 years for some of us to detox these heavier loads of excess estrogen, which is that, once again, when that's interacting with the sun, that's resembling that premature aging. And so in 2020, when I launched my course, the first summer rolled around, and some people noticed, hey, I'm kind of starting to burn a little bit less. This is interesting. Second summer rolled around, more people started to notice that. By the third summer, which is interesting because it's 3 years or over 3 years since the course had been out, that's when you had like this woman over here who is Irish as it gets, the red hair, the freckles. She's like, I can be outside in the summer sun all day long. I am not burning.
Right.
How is that possible?
How is that possible? The Fitzpatrick meter of like fairness to melanin to how dark your skin is. Yep. That's incredible. And then that comes with like the freckles, the age spots. Generally, that's what we're conditioned to believe, right?
Totally.
We're conditioned. The sun's going to come with that.
Exactly. That if you have a certain presentation in your skin based on your ancestry, that means that the sun is more harmful to you. And now there's a flip side to that, which is when you have more melanin in the skin, you have more, and Michelle talks about this a lot with it, it requires more. You need more. Yeah, you need more.
Of the sun.
But to have watched people burn their entire lives, and then adjust their nutrition, adjust their lifestyle, and they're like, okay, my body likes the sun. Turns out my
biology needs it.
Well, my experimentation, I felt like I had the nutrition part dialed in, and yet didn't realize how much more room I had to develop my love of the sun and tolerance and capacity for it.
Solar callus, yeah?
Yeah, solar callus. The key for me was taking my glasses off.
Oh, yeah.
No sunglasses.
No contact
lenses.
Yep.
No glasses
100%.
outside. And so once I got my eyes in the sun, then my body in the sun completely shifted. Wow. That was like no burning, no nothing.
Which was a whole paradigm shift for you, because in the degeneration of the eyes with the artificial light, people are wearing more contacts and glasses. So then it's kind of like a never-ending loop unless you stop it.
Yeah.
You pattern interrupt
I know
that.
anytime a woman in my containers, or even a guy, anybody in any of my containers, starts talking about anxiety or depression or something like that, I'm like, do you wear contact lenses? Yes, as a matter of fact, I do. I'm like, you have got to take them out and get outside, put your old
sunrise, sunset,
plastic frame glasses back on, and get out in the sun, and get your feet in the ground, and put those glasses on top of your head. I walk every morning with my plastic frames on top of my head, outside walking.
Don't you have stories about like almost meeting a deer or something?
Oh, totally. I almost walked into a buck down here on the road. It's like, the sun's just coming up. My glasses are on top of my head, and we're like standing in front of each other, like almost eyeball to eyeball. And then the only reason he ran is because I stopped. So it's always fun, what you're going to run into. And this morning it was funny because I had my glasses up, and there's axes running across the road. And I was like, oh, I hear them. So I put my glasses on so I could see them. And then right on the other side of that was the pig family. So it's like, and the piglets, so it's like.
It's a country.
It's a whole thing. It's a whole vibe. Country. Yeah.
I feel like my actual experience with the sun has been my son, my literal son.
Your literal son. Yeah. Yes.
Like the feedback loop has been with him because growing up, I was a athlete, all kinds of sports, but we were outside all the time. And so I feel like maybe the effects weren't quite as intense. Right now we're seeing kids inside on screens all day, and the world's changing a little bit. But with my son, the days that we get full body sun on him, he sleeps so much better. The quality is completely different. Even on the days that we would go see the sunrise and step outside, if he's not getting that full body sun, there's just a different quality of his sleep at night. And so that was my immediate feedback loop, was like, and we, was it 4 weeks in, whenever we took him to the beach and we got him a little toasty, and I was like, this is my initiation into, okay, we need to actually completely build his solar callus. Great. Let's baby step tiptoe in. So we had an experiment with that, but getting him in the sun and the impact it has on his sleep.
100%. This was like one of the main reasons why Michelle and I sat down and created this airway toolkit as families were adapting into the fall and winter months in rooted families, was knowing that a lot of people are going to be having less light potentially, and then understanding the relationship between light environment and sleep quality. It's just huge. And then
there's a lady, Nico Kennedy. I think she's a psychiatrist, and she's in the birth world, but she talks about circadian rhythm a lot. But her Instagram handle is brighter days, darker nights. And I was like, this is that is the foundation, period. That's the concept.
100%.
Is like getting in the sun during the day, getting your eyes and your body, your skin in the sun. And then at night, it's night. We talk about this in General Biohabits 2.0 a lot. It's like dark means dark.
Yeah.
Like when we talk about light, we also have to talk about the darkness, because humanity has always been here on the earth with both present, right? There's always been one and the other. There's never just been a time where it's all light or all darkness. And so, if we're talking about light, we're also talking about the absence of light as well for our physiology.
And we're in respecting it. And that's the irony with, let's say, the person who's wearing the, contact lenses during the day, or maybe they're sitting behind a computer screen all day, fluorescent light office. And then as we go into the winter months, there's almost this like fear of the darkness in a way where it means winter means this, winter means that, darkness means this. So we think brighter means happier. It means more joy, especially around the holiday time.
Totally.
You know,
like
with all the lights.
Christmas lights and
oh
everything.
yeah, 100%.
Or it's like exposure. You know, it's like bringing things, lighting things up, like bringing things to the surface. I can see that.
And something I love that you say is like radiance or beauty is the ability to
store and emit light.
Yes, which has nothing to do with, you know,
what you look like.
yeah,
artificial
or how
light.
much you can, like light up your house and feel happy and joyful that way. Like true
I love that.
radiance, true beauty, true humanity comes from literally being synced to light, and then your ability to emit the light that's actually naturally around you.
Yeah.
There's studies in chiropractic specifically where they have studied somebody pre-adjustment, post-adjustment, and pre-adjustment, they basically look at how much their body is emitting light. There's a measure, and then post-adjustment, how much they're emitting light, and they've tied it into the immune system essentially, and the function of the body that way. But your immune cells, all kinds of cells, emit light, right? It's the infrared. It's like our body temperature. But post-adjustment, how much the body is able to like have this spark of light because of the blood, all the things, right? The morphogenetic field opening, blood flow, nervous system function being cleared. But it's the internal light that's being measured and how much it's emitting.
Which maps that over to, like if you were working with a family and they have something going on, that being like core foundational piece, how often would you say that that part is missing? That part's all the time?
All the time.
I feel like you can target it though. Like right away, you're like, you don't sleep at night.
Right.
Oh, you
Your
can
lights
see
are
it.
on.
You
Your
can
lights
see
are
it
on.
on their bodies,
All
in
the
their
time.
in their eyes.
Yeah. And it's so interesting how like the airway industry will make it about the anatomy. And I'm like, oh, you know what? Let's everybody reel it back in, because if we order, this is what Rooted Families is all about. Well, if we place these things in the order in which they benefit and support and allow us to be human, then we can actually more better assess
Mo better is what she says all the time.
Assess like what remains. Like, is this anatomy truly, this is such a perfect example. Like a lot of the doctor groups that I'm in, right? So I had the other day, someone pops into one of those groups and is talking about, we've done all the gut healing. The house has been ripped back to the studs for mold, and we're mold free. We've healed the gut, blah, blah, blah. And we've still got tonsils and adenoids.
100%.
And I'm like, hello, big red truck, And so I'm like, but what's interesting is I could see in this engagement that this person was actually baiting the physicians in, the doctors or the doctors in, so that they would give the advice, which was do this, do that, I call it treating in place. They're not healing in place, so let's treat in place, right? So now we're into the location effect. And so the location is not serving for whatever reason, right? It's the light, it's the energetics in the family, it's whatever, fill in the blank. And this child is still staring down the barrel at tonsils and adenoid surgery. And what came from that interaction was, oh, let's use laser on them. Hello.
Wow.
Laser. Hello, light.
Whoa. Whoa.
What are we talking about now? We're talking about, all right, we're talking about light. So good. And if we're going to use that to heal, then there's obviously a deficiency.
Totally. We need to implement that in your life before you
How
go
you
outsource
store
it.
and emit light.
Literally.
Right? So,
which is why Michelle, she has this, it's not a joke. It's actually dead serious. It just sounds like a joke when a family has something going on and she's like, let's get your kids sleeping and then we'll talk about this thing that's going on. Because almost a guarantee, maybe I won't say that word, but when you restore the mitochondrial function,
circadian,
these root resourcing.
Yeah. Let's turn the power on.
Yeah. Yep. So much more often than not, these things resolve on their own and they have less to do with the anatomy, like you said, but it's more about just charge and mitochondrial function.
And well, in Rooted Families, in the vessel, we talk about you want to put the oxygen mask on yourself and then, look at what's happening around you. And then your children, but invariably it's going to be about the child this, the child that, the child's sick, the child's got this diagnosis, whatever. And then really, actually, they're just the canary in the coal mine that's letting everybody know that there's a problem. And I've said this for years and years. And so it's that just the feedback loop is signaling. And so now we're just going to unplug the smoke detector.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
I mean, that's what we're doing.
That's exactly what we're doing. Annoying. Let's it out.
Let's just take the batteries out because I'm tired of listening to this thing short out.
Exactly. Versus it being the opportunity for complete family
so much opportunity. And what's so fascinating is we are so quickly encultured and programmed to a certain like aesthetic in a home or look or whatever, that people do not translate and transfer, cross-correlate ideas into like another situation. And how many times, have you looked on social media and some social influencer is underneath the massive LED lights in their big, beautiful McMansion talking about, and I'm like, I can't even look at this. I'm like, here, let me put my blue light blocker to see the
this alien light.
This is crazy. This
100%.
is crazy white lit.
Okay, but we also did at the beginning, or a long time ago, maybe 6 months ago, we made a reel for the vessel where we had in the club music by 50 Cent.
And
there was like a baby in a crib.
Sound machine.
Lights on.
Everything.
Which is basically what it is. LED is basically a strobe light.
100%. To your brain, to your brain.
Yeah. The flicker.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's interesting though, when we're talking about place and location, like there is some legitimacy to that in the sense that like, I think there was a study done a while ago, I don't know, some poll, but the most lit city, the most light polluted city was Washington, D.C. And then the most sound polluted was LA. And so living in those places, there's a legit location deficiency that you're going to have to like come up from, right? You're going to already put yourself down in this deficient state because you have a longer way to make a jump into this biological norm space if you're going to put yourself in a place like that. And then I think, don't they also say that the way that you sleep, right, it's dependent on like food, light, temperature, and stimulation. I think are the main four. And so those are the things that you assess for wherever if you're trying to treat in place or you're trying to heal in place, those need to be assessed first, right? And altered, create some foundational elements there if you need to do that. Then you can go do whatever, the laser or whatever else you're seeking, right? Go to the top of the pyramid.
You work your way up the pyramid, as I say. But I find that most people, like in all the groups that I do, the light piece has the biggest block.
Cool. Yeah.
The biggest block. And so like when I'm doing, say, True North Woman, week 1 right out of the gate, I'm like, you need to have such and such, blue light blockers. I want to see you underneath a red light on this call. I do not want to see your computer reflected in your glasses. I want you covered, to be on this call. And, I've gotten like, I can remember like specifically several people that have pushed back the hardest, and we get to week 5 and they're still sitting under their LEDs, and I call them out every single time. I'm like, I'm going to call you out until you change this. I'm going to be pressure on you. Because it's that important.
Well, we did have another client that was in our Midland Revolution community whenever we had that going. And she was in there for maybe 10 months before she got blackout curtains in their house.
Because and then the kids started sleeping.
But she's been working through that for 10 months,
Wow.
And I mean, of course, we're like, dark is dark. Dark is dark. Yeah. We talk about that. Like no lights on, no Bluetooth. Like take all this stuff out.
That's the level of the block, though. Yeah. That block. It is such a hard thing for people to want to change.
Interesting you say block, because I see it also as a block in the victimhood of, let's say somebody's living in a very high northern latitude, and we're sitting here talking about light, and they're like, well, you guys live in Hawaii and you have all this light.
Pulling the privilege card or whatever, it's like choices, bro.
I see this all the time as if that's the only light that we're talking about during the day, when there's so much that we can create at night that is the adaptive quality that we're talking about here. So it's like both.
Well, just like I explained, and that's what we do. Home,
exactly.
Like,
in the home, that's
like what olive oil lamps. What's so funny?
We abide by that.
That 11 days, I was like, oh, this is why our great grandparents ate their big meal during the day. They couldn't see to cook it at night.
100.
Do we eat after dark because we have the option to see? They did not. So they ate their big meal during the day. And it's so funny how, like, even raising my children in that environment now, like my youngest, Saturday, he rings me up or he texts me, and there's this video of he's at this place and they have all these oil lamps.
Oh, cool.
And he's like, do you want any of these?
Whoa.
And I said, as a matter of fact. And I stopped by and made my selections, and he took care of that. And then I brought them home and cleaned them up. And now I have like 4 beautiful new oil lamps, you know? But see, that's the kind of thing. My son's looking, he's like, oh,
my mom does
my mom would do this. My mom would wanted this. And of course, because we had just also had the storm and we're without power, and it was perfect, right?
So good.
Yeah.
One of the other unlockings, though, for my process in like the sleep and the darkness was knowing where melatonin is produced, right? Melatonin in the body and in the bloodstream is produced in the daylight. So
in
being
the sun.
in the sun. Yeah. Daylight.
Secreted in the dark.
Secreted in the dark.
Yeah.
So that was, I feel like that was just nobody told me that kind of feeling.
Right.
You know?
You didn't learn that one in school.
Well, you know what? When you go back to like some of the basics though, like light is wavelength form.
Yeah.
Like you learn like radio waves,
Right.
and then microwaves, and you learn the spectrum, and then the infrared and all of that. You learn that, but there's not context for your life and how you're gonna live or just like bring that into your daily life at all.
Well, and you make a really good point, because no wonder we do not cross correlate.
Yeah.
Because over here it's facts, and over here this is what we do.
Totally.
So they're not merged. They're not connected.
For somebody who has a like pre-med bachelor degree, with exercise physiology minor, that's crazy. You know, some of those correlations weren't made.
No application whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that knowing that was how I've helped my family, right, get into sleep, is having what you say is like your full panel. The more we get our full entire bodies in the sun during the day, we have the ability to create melatonin at night and secrete it. So you make it during the day and you secrete it at night. But then the idea that you're going to use candles versus turning on a light to breastfeed, or turning on like my phone flashlight to change a diaper or whatever we were doing early on. Those kind of things were huge keys for me in unlocking how I'm going to physiologically, biologically take care of my family as a mother, as the housekeeper. And so implementing some red light things, implementing the candles. So as we're eating dinner, are the nights that we don't have the ability to eat before the sun goes down, it's like the candles are on. My son knows, he every time he sees a candle, he says, hot, hot, hot. And I'm like, he knows it's hot. He knows it's a candle. He knows he doesn't touch it. But it's because we've been doing that since the day he was born, literally. In his emergence, in his birth. Like, you guys came in, like, it's like a seance. There's like 90 candles at my labor. On
100%.
100%. Gotta set the mood. But I didn't want to disrupt. And this is a huge critical point whenever we're talking about birth, and something that we could talk about in our village birth offering is the placenta actually creates its own melatonin. And so the hospital systems and the systems we have for women to birth in now, they're massively disruptive for a lot of reasons, but one of them being the light that's emitted in those hospital rooms and its impact on stopping the oxytocin, which brings your contractions because it connections to the melatonin that's naturally being created by the placenta. So we could go all the way back to like you as a mother creating your circadian rhythm that impacts your baby, and you're giving your baby their imprint or their blueprint for their circadian rhythm in the womb.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking about just the instinctive, intuitive kind of like
you laboring in the dark and
in the hospital in the dark.
Totally.
My
nobody
first
checked
one.
me. Nobody I'm hiding.
Nobody checked me. Nobody came, and I'm just in the dark in my room by myself, like unheard of, right?
Totally.
And then the other thing I was thinking about is, I'm from the incandescent era, right?
Which are now not outlawed, right?
Yeah,
they're coming back.
Imagine that. How about that?
Praise the Lord.
So I'm from the incandescent era, and then I remember when LEDs and fluorescents came in, I was like, oh, heck no.
And isn't it an energy saver? Like what's the, that's the reason.
It was
energy
pushed
saver.
because of the energy and the energetic,
right.
like, lack of pull on it. And, I used to actually, instead of like 60 and 75 watt incandescents, I used to buy the lower wattage, right?
Wow.
Incandescents, which is so weird because here I am being that weirdo.
Yeah.
And then, it's like been a whole thing my whole life. And so when I go to someone's house or go into a restaurant, I cannot tell you how many times I've walked into a restaurant and been like, oh yeah, no, we're not doing this. And I'm out. We're done. No, not even going to sit down.
God, or 5 stars for any restaurant that gets their lighting right.
Yes.
Like, seriously.
And then we're in a home design season right now. And I was laughing with these guys because the contractor was like, okay, so where do we want to be installing lights in the house?
Where are the can lights going?
I was like, the answer is no.
No.
Sconces or nothing.
I was like, I need just outlets for my lamps that I'm going to be plugging in, and that's pretty much it. He's like, no, we need some lights.
And
like
you're
one.
Like, no, bro, no, we don't.
I mean, we're even doing that for our reno. Yeah. We're just doing, what we're planning on just doing is fans overhead. And so, I'm like, put the plugs so people can, turn on their sconces.
Plenty of plugs, or like a little place for, I could put a little table and then a candle right there. It's just the way that it is.
Yeah. And I think in Maui, I will say the privileged part potentially is that we are so surrounded by nature and so engulfed with the natural world that it is maybe easier to be in rhythm or in rapport with the light and dark cycles. And it's possible anywhere.
And that would be like the take home.
Totally.
It's a choice.
Totally.
Yes.
You choose. You make choices every single day.
This is why we say biohabit.
Choose different.
Yep. Yep.
You want to see a change? You want to have an experience? Make a change and evaluate. Make a change and evaluate.
100%.
And
yeah, I feel like it's crucial to understand the sovereignty in all of the light, all of the really foundational pieces that we implement. But I feel like, do you want to talk a little bit about the bioenergetic choices that women and families can make?
I mean, this is like the perfect time to start laying a foundation if you're not already, because the summer, I feel like, just like the sunburn, we were just talking about the sunburn situation earlier, it's kind of an exposing of where we're at bioenergetically in our body. And so to start now laying some principles of bioenergetics in the body, and I'll break that down in a second, leading up to the summer months when you do have a lot of light available to you would be super wise. So, just to like simplify the conversation of bioenergetics, it's essentially just supporting the metabolism. And what Ray Peat found is that, to support the metabolism, what we're really doing is supporting youth-associated hormones, because as we age, our metabolism is shown to kind of like have this decline, get slower. And then when you look at children with this robust metabolism, there's also these youth-associated hormones that go with them. Culturally, modernly, we're seeing people in their 20s, even like younger than that, 30s, experience a metabolic decline of like 70s, 80s, very, very early, just based on modern lifestyle, modern food, nutrition, life. And so basically what I'm talking about when I say metabolism is just, supporting your youth-associated hormones, which just so happen to be the kind of like inverse relationship to the hormones and the chemical foundations that lead to accelerated aging in the sun. And therefore the association of like aging and stress and cortisol, how that kind of goes hand in hand with, a slow metabolism or just getting older. And so Ray Peat kind of broke things down as far as, looking at the skin, looking at reversing aging. I coined this term called the metabolic makeover that we're going to talk about in the next episode. We're going to talk about Botox in the next episodes. We'll talk about aging in a second. But if I could just simplify like 3 core things that are supporting the metabolism and understanding what is actually like raw material or building blocks for these youth-associated hormones, it is supporting your thyroid. I talk about this in Freely Rooted, but essentially just like adapting your lifestyle in a way that's actually pro-thyroid. So for example, you know, if you were going to go outside and, you know, take a bunch of kale, like 5 handfuls of kale and shove them in your smoothie. And that might be your thing, girl.
Who would want to do that?
That might be your thing.
No, thank you.
Spicy.
And, but understanding that, you know, plants that are grown above ground, that are accessible to animals, there's certain actual toxins that exist on these plants that are for a reason, that they are protecting themselves from being eaten. And so these have the same substances that inhibit thyroid production. And so just understanding that alone, besides maybe what we've learned is healthy, or we saw some recipe and we're like, yeah, I should be eating tons of raw kale every day in a smoothie with this like electric mixer, you know? And so
you go through that thoroughly in Freely Rooted.
I do.
Yep.
I do. And so just being able to recognize, okay, there's a lot of simplicity when it comes to actually supporting your thyroid. The sun is very pro-thyroid. Fruit is very pro-thyroid when it's local to you. And so thyroid hormone being one. 2 is vitamin A, meaning the animal stuff, the retinol, vitamin A, and then cholesterol. These are kind of like your building blocks as far as supporting a metabolism, and then going into the summer months, what is going to produce and support these youth-associated hormones that are incredibly protective to the skin and actually like work with the sun to be able to charge up the body. And so I think it's interesting when you look back at, you know, what these actresses or celebrities, Marilyn Monroe, for example, these actresses and celebrities in like the 30s, 40s, 50s, who had these like plump, just like high cheekbone, beautiful skin, spent so much time in the sun. And what they were eating, liver, eggs,
steak,
orange juice, steak. Yeah, it was some like really simple animal-based foods that were high in saturated fats, high in cholesterol, lots of protein, lots of good animal protein, being so protective to the body. And so that's where you can see, yeah, just the beautiful relationship. There should be a symbiotic relationship between us and the sun, obviously. The other thing that's interesting to me about food and latitude and location is in oranges. I think Ray was the one that discovered this, but oranges and guava. But oranges in particular, they have this chemical in them that are protective against melanoma. And you look at where oranges are available and where they're grown. The Sunshine State, hello.
Oh my
like
gosh,
I'm like where sun is more abundant. Oh, interesting. There's food that is grown that is supportive, and once again
for the
has
people that live there.
Absolutely. 100%. For the people that are there and would have that biological relationship with the land to be like, okay, let's just like look what's around me, and then go
Does
ahead.
that have the same latitude as here? I don't know where Florida is on the map.
We're a tiny bit lower, but not that much lower. Yeah, we're like almost
so much citrus here. Well, and then I was also going to say all those nutritional pieces support the thyroid, like you're mentioning, but the sun is literally the timekeeper through the SEN in the brain for all the thyroid function, right? All the hormonal, how do you say that? Hormonal dispersion of molecules and hormones and the things that you require for knowing what time of day it is. Midday sun, it has been shown to be the best timekeeper essentially for your hormonal cascade. And so when you wake up, being outside or being exposed, your eyes or your skin being exposed to the sun first thing in the morning allows serotonin, dopamine, cortisol to rise and do the things that it needs to do. And then midday sun gives that signal, okay, now we're going to create through the melanin, right? We're going to create the vitamin D, we're going to create the melatonin, and then the melatonin is going to stay high as the sun is setting. And then the cortisol decreases, all of the other pieces will level and balance, and the melatonin stays high. And so all of this is the precursor for the thyroid.
Yeah. Just understanding it as a relationship of like, raw material, precursors, how you can support your hormones now. And then, because it's really just about like getting off the stress hormones and that.
Getting off the phone,
phone. Yeah. And the stress hormone relationship to artificial light goes hand in hand anyways. And so if you could just simplify it down to, I mean, literally what Michelle said with her raising her kids as well, is being like, how would our ancestors have lived? Like, just it's that
or
simple.
just like, what do I need to do right now?
Or how
like
do I
out of
feel?
necessity. Yeah. How do you feel?
You know, it's all about, for me, it's my experience in my body, and I made choices based on that, not what looked good, not what everybody else was doing,
trending.
all of that. Yeah, trending, whatever. You know, I was about, oh, this actually feels really good. I'm going to do more of that.
Yeah. And you're still
Totally.
doing that,
I'm
which
still
is
doing
really
that.
inspiring.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
all the time.
Yeah.
What do you feel like is worse? Would you say like blue light on the phone or alien light overhead?
Gosh, I think they're the same.
Yeah.
I call it the cigarette smoke effect. Back in the 70s, you know, there was the cigarette wallet. So it looked like a little change purse, but it was cigarettes. And so the Bic lighter would go in the side, like, you know, my aunt smoked and different people that smoked, and a lot of people smoked in their houses and homes and restaurants. And so it was carrying your cigarettes with you. And I liken carrying a telephone with carrying the cigarettes with you, right? Wow. And I call it like the secondhand smoke of our world. It's like that to me.
Like that.
That's so good.
Yeah. And even walking into a restaurant that's like fully LED lit, you know what these places are like. To me, it's like, oh, yeah, no, I'm not smoking tonight. Thanks. Bye. You know, and then I can remember also looking at, you know, back, I don't know, probably 8 years ago, when the contractor reno redo thing started happening and people started really using LED lights, and it was the freaking gray vinyl laminate on the floor and the gray on the walls. And I would laugh because I'd go in these houses and they would turn on the LED lights, and it's the gray paint and the LED light, and the paint turns periwinkle because of the blue coming out of the lights. And one time, just to mess with this realtor, I was like, gosh, this is such an interesting I knew exactly what was happening. I was just playing dumb. You know, which is kind of fun sometimes.
Interesting choice.
And so it doesn't happen very often, but, you know, when I do, I like to have a good time with it. I'm like, gosh, you know, what is with this color? It's so periwinkle. And they're like, oh, yeah, well, no, it's really gray. And I'm like, no, it really looks periwinkle. You know, I'm like, wasn't going to let it go, you know?
This is what most Airbnbs, like,
I cannot stand that.
We in an Airbnb, we travel with a red light, and then obviously these.
Yep.
And basically all lights go off, red light goes on at night if we need to see something. Because we don't really travel with candles. Do you guys travel with candles?
No, we have the travel panel.
I have the Bond Charge puck.
Yeah.
I have that. Let's talk about choices and products.
Yes.
So I love that one.
Yes.
And then I also travel with, you know, black electrical tape.
Ooh, yeah, put it over things.
To put over your lights.
Anything that I can't unplug, and I've disconnected some stuff before. I'm just gonna say, but it's not
put it outside.
I'm not above reaching behind something to unplug something, you know. And so I'll cover anything, you know, because when you're used to like complete blackout, you get into a room that has one single green light on something. And
just
I'm like,
the time on the stove. Yeah, totally. You know? We've done that whenever we travel.
The freak out's relative.
For longer periods of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do that.
So I do that. I do the Bond Charge puck.
We also, I don't know if you guys ever saw that. I think it was on Sam's stories, my husband's stories, where remember whenever we went home like 2 Christmases ago, and he did a story where we were like opening the windows, unscrewing the light bulbs in the house. And do you remember that? We were being we were being trashy. Like we were just like mean with it. But that's literally what we do when we go home is like, ooh, just unplug this, the Wi-Fi out real quick. Like, let me just open some windows in the middle of winter when it was like
we used to do that, like when we were living in Kansas, and the kids used to call it trap house lighting because I had red lights in certain things. Oh my gosh. And they're like, all we need is foil in the windows. I'm like, look, guys, slow down, you know, just relax. Everybody calm down.
Literally, the last place we rented, my landlord, he didn't come into our house, but one evening he came into the door, like right to the door. He saw that my bedroom had a red light on. And he was like, there was candles in the living room, and he was like, oh, what are you doing happening in there? Like the neighbors thought maybe you're growing weed. And I was like, no, we're just trying to sleep. We're just trying to sleep.
Well, you know what's so funny about that is I'm pre, you know, red light company too. So back in the day, we did these 90-watt UFO lights. They were pot grow lights. They were grow lights.
Wow.
And I can remember, like, gosh, this must have been like 10 years ago. I would do body work underneath these pot grow lights.
Wow.
I mean, is that some gangster stuff or what? But that's like how it went down for me.
OG.
And I can remember like when we were doing infant frenectomies, then also I would turn off all the LED lights and we would put on red headlamps. I mean, that's how like legitly serious I was about all this stuff.
I believe that because you talk about that in Rooted Family as far as like the mismatch of asking your child to be in an environment like that and assuming something fantastic is going to happen with that kind of environment.
Well, how did the dentist see the laser with the red light? Because aren't they the same light?
Right. Yeah. Well, you know, when so this actually the CO2 doesn't have the red light.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're just looking at the result of the field, right? Of the actual like positioning, right? Okay. But my thinking was that if we're opening up this tissue, I don't want that wavelength to be in that field because the sun doesn't shine here.
100%.
Right? And so why would I want to go in and fry that tissue with a wavelength that is going to make it scar?
You should speak about wavelength that's healing. What is it?
Like the 660 to 880.
We talk about this
nanometer
in the vessel.
Yeah, and so we, you know, that's where the red lights are based on that spectrum now. But that's also the one that doesn't disrupt the circadian rhythm. So using those on, I'm thinking about like Christmas when you aren't feeling good and I gave you my Christmas present.
Your mask.
We
your Christmas sweater.
We look like
you need this.
Yeah. Are you talking about the red light thing?
Yeah.
Whenever we look like some sort of we look like Hannibal Lecter.
Yes. Yes. Wearing that white mask.
Well, I had this mask, this 1064 nanometer low wattage mask. And Kori wasn't feeling well. And so after about 3 days, Molly and I were like, we're going in because our girl's not well and she's kept us away
turn the ship
long
around.
enough. Time to turn the ship around. So we go in and I'm assessing the situation. Molly's doing some adjustments. I'm asking a few questions. And then I'm like, okay, my girl needs the face mask.
The good stuff. The
good stuff. She needs the equipment, you know. So I sent down all my heavy duty scalar wave, blah, blah, blah. Yes. And then this face mask, you know, it was on.
If you don't know, my husband tries it on. He's like, yeah, I'm buying one immediately. And he did. He bought one immediately.
How does his skin look after he's been using it?
How does your skin look?
He's like, look at me.
And he's like, do you want this one back? I'm like, nah, just keep it, bro.
I don't want your sweaty face mask back.
We'll keep the sweaty one and we'll ship you a new one. That's what we did.
It's all good. But those are, you know, talking about choices, like that's my choice is I have that kind of stuff on board. I travel with certain things. I have my blue light blockers. I don't know what else. What other like choices do you guys make in those kinds of situations?
With travel?
Anything.
Yeah, we've also done, I know when we did the postural blueprint in Tennessee, we were really cognizant of where there was a lot of like 5G influence on the city. When we were in Nashville. So we chose an Airbnb that had nature and had like access to the river right there, access to trees around.
Place.
Yeah, beautiful spot. Chickens on the property.
Yeah.
Like it was really cool. So I would say finding places that have access to nature is another, like, I would say choice that my family makes.
Yeah.
When we travel.
That's how I do too. I'm like, what's the most like organic, nature-based, off, you know, the beaten path kind of thing that I can get. And then if I'm going to be in the city, then it's like, okay, I've got my gear and I'm only going to be there for a little while and then I'm out and, you know, that's
another choice that we make oftentimes when we're going back to the Midwest is doing like supercharged sun. Right. So we'll do like 2 or 3 days before we're like doing a lot of full body. That has been in the past what we've chosen to do. A lot of full panel sun exposure.
Yep.
Or like longer beach trips. You know what I mean?
100%. We like call it charging up. And speaking of which, orienting things around the house. We've done all sorts of experiments with like setting up structures in our yard, or Kyle set up like a carport one time, like a tent essentially to make
tabernacle.
A tabernacle.
You guys could rent that for about $2,000 a month if you were interested.
We could.
Yeah.
Just setting up barriers where we're just making the most of what we can to get that full body sun, especially, you know, before we conceive this child. In that whole first trimester, I'm like, belly and full body in the sun is such a priority to me. It still is.
I think that's another really good example is another place we make choices is in our belief systems. For example, like this always, like in my containers, bumps up against people, and they're like, "You mean like outside with
like
nothing
naked?
on, like naked?"
Yeah.
And I'm like,
My boobs.
I'm like, I know. And I just want you to try it. If you can, bring yourself to do that. And then
Sorry to offend you.
invariably people come back with, that's like literally the most life-changing thing I've experienced in a really long time.
Supercharging.
One experience with it, and you let us know how your belief systems have changed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
completely.
I mean, in my last rental that we were in at 3:00 I think I've shared this. Maybe I shared this on the vessel on some of our workshops. But at 3:00, the sun would shine in my kitchen, in the exact same spot all year long, which is interesting. It didn't change with the summer and winter, but the exact same spot. I would open this screen. I would open the doors. I wasn't offending anybody. I was just in my kitchen, but getting full body sun.
Yeah.
So you can do that.
Yeah, choices. I was going to say, like, if you don't have a yard set up right now, same thing with our master bedroom. We just take the screens off. And in the winter, the sun is basically how it's oriented is we get less on the yard, more inside the house. So,
yeah,
you create your own experiences is what I say all the time.
You know, one of the things that is really significant is the phone. So many people on their phone. And this is old school again. But there was a, company back in the day, it was Low Blue Lights, I think. They had the cling. So there was an orange cling, and it would just sit on top of the phone. Yep. And a lot of people don't like it because it decreases sensitivity, in your screen, but it's super effective, right? Even better than the settings in your phone. Amazing. So now Apple, all the phones have the ability to change the color, but it doesn't necessarily, there's still going to be the flicker. There's still going to be the kind of insult there from that. I'm old school. I really like the clings.
I have one of those now. I have one of those on where it reduces blue light.
Yeah.
It doesn't completely take it away because it's clear.
Yes.
Right? And then you also add in the red light settings under the color filters that you can really create more of an ambiance.
Yeah.
And also it's less interesting to look at your phone, to be honest. Like you're not scrolling because it's not that blue light addiction.
Well, and Mitchell.
I was just about to talk about this. I was like, we got to talk about this.
Oh, Mitchell, my man.
Let's go into it, guys.
Yeah. Mitchell Martin.
Here we go. Everybody buckle up.
Mitchell Martin, his whole approach to helping men with addiction and pornography addiction is through the dopamine circuit. So he talks about blue light blocking. It's really... is it the porn or is it the light addiction? Is it the brain side? Yes. 100% yes.
100%.
The stimulation as well, the neurologic stimulation.
Absolutely.
We have a mutual friend that worked for Netflix, and she actually created the button where it says, play this next. In like 5, 4, 3, 2,
the
1.
countdown.
She created that, and then after she created it, she's like, well, I'm bouncing. This is not the lifestyle I want. You know what
Karma.
Bye.
No more karma.
But no, that's part of
and I'm out.
the blue light combination with the addiction of applications that are designed to keep you engaged.
Right.
That is a crazy cycle to break.
I was going to say same thing maps over to kids, iPads, video games. So if you have older children, where this is such a relevant conversation for us. I think maybe like 12, 13 and up with boys is I don't know what's happening. I cannot get him away from this video game screen addiction. Do a little experiment. Put the blue light blockers. Get them from Raw Optics. Get the kid sizes, adult sizes. Get the blue light blockers on your child and see if it makes a difference in that chemical response of just being completely locked in.
And that's another perfect segue into Rooted Families, because I talk about this in Rooted Families. It's like, it's not the child's problem. This is a result of the ecological manifestation of the being in the environment, the organism and the environment. And how do we antidote that? We do with them, not to them.
Completely.
We don't make it about them and their problem. We actually say, you know what, we're going to go do something.
Well, and then a lot of that too is the parents modeling. So the kids generally don't want to do something that you're telling them to do if you're not being held accountable.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly.
I mean,
so it's like your actions speak completely.
Huge.
Yeah,
Completely.
they're
Huge.
monumental.
There's probably an incremental step of mom or dad on phone all the time, iPad, compartmentalization, video games, and then the list goes on and on and on. It's a value system. It's a way that you live. It's a way that you are being in the world. And it starts with the family unit of cleaning up how you want to engage, as a family in the world.
I know. I get so interested at my son's responses, like 28 and 24, right? And we'll go out to dinner. So like we're at the Four Seasons eating or something. And if there's a child in there with an
iPad,
something, you know, some kind of device, they will 9.8 times out of 10 say something.
Wow.
My kids are going to say something. They're like,
what is that about?
Yeah, they have something to say about it. And I'm like, this is
that
so
disruptive.
Yeah. And they're like, and it's not at the child, it's that their standards and their values are that let's be together as a family.
Yeah, the mealtime is when we connect.
Yeah.
It's communing.
Let's connect. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. So that's what, you know, can come through from that if you set that in motion. So
convenience is it's not all it is.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, this example I feel like is the cross correlation between if you are integrated and connected as a family, you're synced up, you're probably doing that in all areas of life. Earth, natural cycles, the seasons. Do you have anything to add? Yeah, local food. Yeah.
Because I know like families will say, well, how do we begin? Or where are we going to find the strength to be able to do this? It feels so insurmountable.
Yeah, implementing the new.
Yeah. And I'm like, just start and let the time outside build, embrace all the seasons, all the different lights of the season. And then that's where you'll get your strength. That's where you'll get your power. And then it doesn't feel so insurmountable. It feels like something you could do. And then you know what? You might decide to take on something else. And then you're unstoppable at that point.
We talk a lot about this in the Vessel and the Untied course. It's like, take it day by day. You have a newborn at home and you feel overwhelmed by all the symptomology, whatever's happening. It's like, you take it day by day, you simplify, take out all the things that you don't need. Get back to nature, get back to these really simple rhythms, right? The circadian rhythms of the body.
How it works is the more online you become, the more capacity you see for
your options, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then it's just it's easeful after that. It's so simple. And then you realize, oh, it was that simple. Whether it's just waking up in the morning and getting sunrise light on your eyes, that being like one habit.
I guarantee you, and I see this all the time, it's like when people are like doing the thing they do not want to do, they are violating their own values. And I'm like, make a list of your values. What do you value? And then look at what you're doing and see what's not fitting, and then make some choices. Start with one thing and then do the next thing, and then eliminate the things that you do not value, and then implement the things that you do value.
And that's a self-confronting conversation, because then you get to look in the mirror and you go, oh, it was me.
It's me. I'm the problem.
It's me. It was me all along. Oh, okay.
And, you know, and at the same time, these really are champagne problems. So I don't know. You know, it's like first world issues. Okay.
Completely.
Any other choices that you guys can think that you make when you're at home or you're on traveling? Or
one thing I always notice if we are in an environment, Airbnb, somebody's house, on like a family's house or something, where big floodlights are on. I'm calling them floodlights.
I think just can lights.
I don't know if that's appropriate.
Well, and
overhead.
And the place you might see that is the big box stores.
100%.
Any of your big box stores are going to have just massive amounts of very buzzy, flickery, very blue spectrum lights.
Literally, my husband will be like, do you want to go to Target? Like, it'll be like 7 p.m. Do you want to do a Target run? I'm like, no, that's offensive. That is offensive to me and my biology.
Absolutely
Only
not.
during the day.
Yes. Yeah. And for very
Costco?
short times.
Are you kidding me?
I mean, it feels like if I'm going to do something like that, it's like I'm on a mission.
Yep.
And it's like, I know exactly what I need. I'm in, I'm out. And if I can pay someone to do that for me, I'm even more down for that.
I might be down to do that.
Me and my guy right here. This my husband's over here. For anybody that can't see.
My guy.
Not a random guy. It's actually Kyle.
He is way more time efficient than me when it comes to stores. So he does the Costco runs because that experience is a drain to my body. We're
not there to shop.
No.
We're there to acquire and exit.
Exactly. And he's like, he goes like mission impossible mode.
Yeah.
Let's go. Good support.
But just from watching, literally my first experience with the effects of these blue lights in the evening, particularly, was just watching my children respond to them, especially meal times. So if we're with extended families, these big lights are on, there's already like new people around or whatever, but like literally just a nervous system response. And then appetite decreasing, nervous system more like upregulated. They go hand in hand.
Well, the kids because of blood glucose. Will appetite suppress.
Yes.
Adults insulin spike. So they go into carb craving. Right?
TV.
Oh, totally. Blue light in general.
Yeah. Chips. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So that's a whole thing too. So the spectrum of light being so taken out of its natural context. So the emphasis on the blue, but then the blue spike, but then also the flicker. So the microstrobe effect is a whole thing. And, you know, I can remember when Jack first started talking about that, and he had gotten into Alexander Wunsch's work, where a German researcher who was looking at the flicker and the effect on the human. And it very much aligned with Robert O. Becker's work and, you know, people that had done research a while back, that it was like, oh, this is actually a thing. And because of modernity and civilization, we ignore it and we take that out because it's the new modern thing and this is what we're supposed to do. Right?
So explain to everybody, whenever you're purchasing a light bulb, what is the difference between like LED and what are some other words?
Well,
like
fluorescence, another one.
So LED, yeah.
So the LED and the fluorescent are very close. They both have a flicker. They have different little bit mechanism. Both very similar spectrums of light. So I consider them like almost the same.
And now there's products on the market that are red lit and LED.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah, well, some of them have flicker, but then there's some companies that have diminished the flicker, right? So that's something to note. But then also, even the Edison bulbs that are LED have
they have a flicker.
They still have a flicker, you know? So it's like, okay.
But the incandescent's coming back. So like that's probably best choice if you're going to do a light bulb. But there's also a company called Healthy Home. And that's something like we've imparted into our home is their light that has the 3 different cycles, basically. So it's like the campfire at night. And actually, their new upgraded bulbs, it literally, I have it in our lamps around our house. It literally looks like a campfire. If you just have one on and the rest of the room is black, it illuminates like a fire.
Wow. That's incredible.
Their newest light bulb. So highly recommend if you're going to do something like that.
And they just came out with a new product. I got to test it out. They're going to release more products in 6 weeks. So by the time that this episode is out, maybe another couple weeks, we'll put it in the show notes. But they are night lights. So instead of having something, you know, oven light, whatever, or if your kids, you know, like some sort of a night light, guaranteed it's going to be some flickering blue light if you got it from a store. But they're just these lights that you can plug down on, you know, on an outlet that are the campfire setting specifically. So they're specifically for nighttime, and then they plug down below, and they are incredible. Probably one of our favorite products that we've had from Adam Marafiotti is the creator. I have his red light. We use the supplements all the time, and then the bulbs, they're circadian bulbs, and then now the night light.
Well, the positioning part is critical.
Critical.
So if Michelle, maybe if you want to talk, like tee this up and talk a little bit about it, but Adam also has the can lights that are the 3 settings, but the position of that at night is actually not a match for biology. It's not a match for your biology. So like maybe utilizing those during the day, maybe, but if you're going to utilize them at night, it needs to be horizontal lighting.
It's so simple. It's just tracking with the sun, right? So if you need daylight, then that comes from overhead. And as the sun goes down, then there's a zone where horizontal, we'll call it horizontal or the horizon, would be lit. And then the campfire would be like at night. So that could be your night light.
Exactly. Yeah. And you guys can get shorter lamps, grandma core, like you said.
Grandma core.
That
I'm about it.
Are further down to the ground. So we'll have all that in the show notes for you guys. And obviously, I mean, it's a funny product too, because it's the product we use when she's on camera using them right now, but it's like the number one, I use these twice a day, daylight, nighttime, but it's the ones that you're not necessarily like filming content of, you know, because you're working while you're using them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those like low key foundational products. It is that important to me. We use them all the time.
Yeah, totally. And then just, opening the windows.
I'll
put
wrap them too.
Yeah,
I'll wrap them too.
For the ending,
We'll see you guys in the next episode talking about Botox, aging, reversing premature aging, and then
big hot topic.
Yeah, big hot topic.
Yep.
We'll see you guys there.